Place in the background intermittently throughout the evening. Hopefully it isn't that annoying to you. I guess your hearing has to make sure it works in those higher decibels to make sure if you're picking it up. If you're not hearing it, be thankful. With your permission and with Dave's permission, I'd like to take a moment and relate to you all a personal story. Now, I like to go off script, but in this case I actually do have notes so I don't tend to wander, because some people have accused me in telling stories that I get going too long. The story, my story that I want to relate to you will focus on my experiences primarily related to two things: stigma around mental health and the overwhelming need for support. For those that recall, at the 2011 dinner, I had mentioned that my wife Kate and I had just attended a conference in Ottawa. It was a Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police conference. It was hosted, and it was "Suck It Up, Doesn't Cut It Anymore." Police executives gathered from across the country. They looked at work-life balance, workplace demands that continue to increase, statistics showing that 1 in 4 Canadians work more than 50 hours per week or more, compared to 1 in 10 from a decade ago. And that statistic was from Human Resources and Social Development Canada. That, thanks to technology, helps increase our inability to disconnect. Also discussed were the current statistics that indicate, as we heard early on, that 20% of Canadians, not just police officers, but in the case of police officers the numbers are higher, as these ordinary people, like myself and like the police officers you see here, are often thrust into extraordinary incidents and events. This 20% will personally experience a mental injury or illness in their lifetime. And almost 1/2, it's 49%, of those who feel they've suffered from depression or anxiety have gone to see a doctor about this problem. Only 49%. This is the tie to stigma. One of the presenters at that conference offered a checklist to see if you're on the stress or anxiety road. And those sitting at my table, a number of senior officers, we were looking at each other as the presenter was going through the list, and we were nodding. And I think each and every one of us hit about 5 out of those 7 points. A bit of a shocker, nonetheless. I'll move ahead to last year's dinner when we heard David Hansen's story. Now, David, you were over here. Are you over there somewhere? There, David. When we heard David Hansen's story, for those of you here, hopefully you recall it. For those of you that weren't, a quick summary, if you don't mind, David, was a normal working financial investment manager, and I hope that's close to the right title, David, for a major Canadian bank, who in the last market hit saw a number of his clients lose substantial amounts of money. That situation and the toll it took on him was the topic of discussion for my wife and I on our way home that very evening. Happenings to everyday people in their everyday lives. Who would have thought that within a month of that evening I'd be in front of my doctor asking for help? Anxiety being the culprit. I was certainly experiencing all the physical manifestations. So, what happened? Explained to me by my doctor and later my psychologist that it was a series of events that conspired against me. I look at my life and thought about this as a long-term building project with my mom, the project manager, and maybe my dad as the construction lead. The architect produced the plans for the foundation and the outer part of the building. Rooms have been added through my life. Some good construction, some not so good. Through 25 years of policing, there have been some pretty dark corridors that have been added, and some heavy-duty vaults installed in that structure. Prior to my visit to the doctor in November last year, I had seen him earlier and as I was having trouble sleeping consistently through the night. Waking up in the middle of the night, running problems, events, things I had to do, and doodling notes, and going down and having a glass of water didn't help. I started with natural remedies, melatonin, to see if they'd help sleep. I tried listening with my little iPod to nice meditation, but ultimately I ended up moving to prescription sleeping medications to get a full night's sleep, realizing that without sleep, I'd really be in trouble. Weight loss. I lost weight. Over a period of a number of months, I dropped from 195-ish down to 172. A good accomplishment. My wife, Kate, indicated she thought I looked great, but I wasn't trying to lose weight. A little piece of history for me was that back in 1996, when my mother was dying of pancreatic cancer at the age of 55, a fellow RCMP member here in Richmond, now a practicing psychologist, suggested that I seek the help of a professional psychologist. Now this was my real introduction to stigma. It was associated to my personal mental health. As an A-type personality and a police officer, I weighed out my options, and because of the confidential nature of the visits, I was able to get external support, both through friends and through the psychologist who got me through that difficult time in my life. After all, in truth, the uniform that an officer wears is not a Superman uniform. At least I didn't find an S under here today. Luckily, I had the support then of a friend to push me in that direction, and that the experience was a positive one for me. Not everybody has a positive one. It's not really one, though, that I overtly shared. So, in essence, I had some renovations done, but in reality, I hadn't gone to City Hall to draw out the official building permit. Now, I jumped back to my doctor visit last November. Making the appointment in the AM, I knew I had to see him. It was stressful. As an A-type personality, I was thinking back to work and possibly, I'll go see him. Potentially he'll give me 2 weeks off work. I was anticipating that. That was my belief. And I thought, well, who'd know? I could call it a holiday. I'd be off. No one would really know the better. I had lots of time in my bank because, of course, I didn't take any of my allotted leave. Well, to my surprise, he sat down, looked frankly at me, and told me that I had to have a minimum of 3 months off work. And immediately, emotion took over me. I realized fully that was something I was not going to be able to hide. I was going to be off for 3 months, and there would be questions. What would people say? What would they think? What about my career? It was really almost too much to handle. But I did have my early positive experience that really had, for me, removed some of that stigma. Certainly I had support. My wife was there, supported me through it all. My 7-year-old daughter was there. She wasn't quite sure what was going on, but she knew she had to give Daddy a lot of hugs. So my previous experience led me to believe and to come to the understanding that in reality around what would people think and say, came to the understanding that I didn't care. In true fashion, the healing process had begun. It was a long time and kind of interesting time for me. The bounce back led to meditation. Lots of meditation practitioners that I don't like to hear. I picked a couple of favorite ones. And for those of you that have looked at any meditation, it's that ringing of that bell that ends the meditation. It was kind of funny for me. I wanted to buy 2 little symbols to put at the end of my fingers just to kind of get myself in that Zen mood. And I even took up yoga. Now, the fact that I can not only explain the downward dog, the sun salutation, and yes, the yoga tree, is amazing enough I can actually do them. my type of book. I forget, it's about 190 pages and not a chapter longer than 3 pages. And each chapter delivers a story to you, so it was easy bedtime reading. Didn't have to wait 26 pages to figure out what he was trying to say. Who would have thought? I started to reconnect with friends that I had all but abandoned prior to my going off. One of those friends was Dave McDonald. I called Dave, we got together, shared some thoughts and experiences, and I am truly thankful for that, Dave. And I'm truly thankful for all those friends that I had abandoned during that time in advance for welcoming me back with open arms. That was my experience. It may not be yours, but I'll get to a point on that later on. My wife, Kate, and Sarah were the constants, always there supporting me, and I'm thankful, eternally thankful, for that. It was my reason for being. It was drawing me back to an understanding of the need for that work-life balance. My department was supportive. Members that had some awareness had called me and they were supportive. Certainly my doctor and my psychology were supportive, and I was very fortunate to be able to go to see them and have the financial means to do that. I enjoyed coming to Pathways Clubhouse. I popped in a couple of times and reacquainted and caught up with some friends during that time. I don't think they had any idea what I was experiencing, but I truly appreciated the company. As I talked to more and more people, those conversations, in truth led by me, I learned that more and more people had been affected in the exact or similar way. Their stories were coming out, and it was coming out because I didn't care and I was willing to tell them mine. And I think that sharing was important for them, and the sharing was certainly important for me. And again, it illustrates that tie to stigma. These people hadn't opened their mouths to people before. This was a release for them. And we were able to support each other. Again, expanding that broader support of friends. My time out really brought me to February of this year, and it brought me back to a full return to work. There was, admittedly, a little bit of anxiety walking through that door for the first time, looking at all those faces as an A-type personality, as an inspector within the department. Because after all, the expectation is I should have been Superman. Some people guessed. Some people didn't care. Some did. And so many others were completely busy with their own lives, as they really should be. Not just their work lives, but their personal lives. They did not have to delve into mine. I'm kind of drawing to the end here, I think, pretty close, but here's the plus. The support I got allowed me to hit that reset button, rather than nosedive further into anxiety and the related depression, or alcoholism, or drug addiction, or acts of violence. Stigma is there for everyone. My message is get over it. Mental injury can affect any and all of us. I, today, am not perfect. I never was. But I am stronger, and I wrestle with that in my own mind, because I know when I tell people that, the natural reaction may be, yeah, sure. I am. I'm earthquake reinforced now. Since my return, I'm grateful. I'm stronger because I have been able to support others, specifically who have approached me, potentially guessing what had happened to me, or just by personality approached me to discuss with me directly their personal mental injury and mental health issues. Each time we've sat down, I grow, we grow. Strange to say that I'm thankful for the experience, but I would not want to live it again. Each day continues to present its challenges, just as it did before. But I look at those challenges now through a different lens. With my loved ones, Kate, Sarah, dad, cousins, brothers, sisters, friends, close friends. I look through that different lens. And my family and friends are my priority. Places like Pathways provide that location, that refuge, that support, and that interaction that helps remove that stigma. I have a thought that I look at. Sorry, I didn't have it pulled up here. I have it right here. One of the things that I found, I think lots of people look to those sayings or posters of the day, the posters for inspiration. And a lot of them delve around how to work harder and better. Sorry, mine doesn't go there. I am still dedicated to my job. I do still work very hard, and I care very much for the community and the communities that I serve. My short message is a message and a quote from Helen Keller that hangs prominently in my office. It says, "Believe. When you are most unhappy, that there is something for you to do in the world. So long as you can sweeten another's pain, life is not in vain." Helen Keller. Okay, I don't know if I'm overboard. Michelle, am I doing poorly? Am I on time? Okay, I've got a final thought. My final thought is this. I may be earthquake proof, but now I fully realize and I know that I have to continue to prepare. It's emergency management at its best. I have to work on preparing for potentially another disaster. Flood, fire, tsunami. And ultimately what I'm doing is, I'm focusing on those things, I'm focusing on what's important to me, and I'm waiting for that final building inspection. And hopefully I'll pass that final building inspection. So folks, that is my story. I do, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you for taking the time to listen, and I greatly appreciate it. And again, I do want to say, Pathways, that's why we're here. Pathways, wonderful place, wonderful people. Please be generous. Thank you.